I was asked this evening in my group about how to manage that sense of being a parent who's trying to control their child. Now, first things first, I'm not a parent, so this is based really on my understanding about how I've worked with people who are parents and what seems to have worked for them. And also, although it does offer some insight into that question about how to avoid controlling one's child, and I will come back to that. The 3 points I'm going to make are very, very general, and they are very, very useful for parenting, but they're pretty much useful for any relationship that we care about. The first point, which is really key, is to start to get curious about what regulation means. And when I say regulation, that's that state that we're in when we feel clear thinking, we feel okay with ourselves, our confidence is okay, we feel we're able to relate fairly well. In nervous system terms, it has a technical term, which is something called ventral vagal. In more esoteric terms, it's being in our heart, this clarity that we have when we feel regulated. Now, the thing is, it communicates itself even when we're not speaking. So when we're in that state, it has this very, very calming, soothing effect on people around us. And that will be true for a child as well. The more we're able to be in that state, and the more we get curious about how to be in that state, the more we'll be transmitting that state to our child. Now, this brings us on to the second point, which is that it is impossible to be in that state all the time. What this means is that it's really about getting better at this skill of being regulated. And the second point, which helps with this, is the kindness towards oneself. The kindness to know that we're not going to be able to be regulated the whole time, that we're going to make lots of mistakes regularly, and also the kindness to allow ourselves to grow. And if we allow ourselves to grow, and this means in the relationship with the child or whoever it is, if we allow ourselves to do that, then a lot of other things become possible. We can find new ways. Related to this is the third point, which is the idea of repair. And repair is this idea that we can actually make a mistake, things can go wrong, and we can actually acknowledge, oh, I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. Perhaps I was a bit controlling then. We can actually acknowledge it. Maybe it's not appropriate to acknowledge it verbally, but we can certainly acknowledge it to ourselves. And then find a way to actually have some kind of truthful, honest, more heart-based, regulated connection. This idea of repair rather than that things get broken. Okay, so they can be broken sometimes, and we can actually start to repair them. Now, when you put these three things together, regulation, this kindness to self, this self-compassion, and repair, if we're able to start doing that increasingly for ourselves and with our child or that special person we care about, or even those people that we work with, it creates an environment which is much, much more conducive to growth, much more likely to actually help ourselves and help the other person see that this is a possibility, a space rather, where we can actually learn, where we can make mistakes, where we can grow, and we can find our way to a much better experience of the world. So these three things, learning more about our regulation, self-compassion, and repair, for me, I think they're pretty solid foundation for being able to be a positive, supportive parent and help us avoid maybe that tendency to get too narrow in our thinking, which is essentially what being a controlling parent is.